welcome everybody here to the IAG Podcast, number 3 in the series, and I'm joined as always with IAG Managing Editor Ben Blasky. Hi Ben, how are you?
Good, Andrew. Yeah, looking forward to this podcast.
So am I. We've got none other than the famous Joe Pisano as our guest. Hi Joe, how are you?
Hey, Andrew. Good day, Ben.
How are you, Joe?
Thanks for having me on.
You're looking. Thanks for having us. Thanks for coming on. And you're looking really well. And
Thank you.
We're in 3 different places at the moment with this whole COVID-19 thing, and so this is a good way for us to get together. And these podcasts, for those of you who don't know, those of our viewers who don't know, these podcasts are kind of an opportunity for us to have a bit of a longer chat with a name behind the names. You see these names in the stories that we write in IAG, and you might wonder, well, what's that guy's story, what this guy's story? And it's a chance for us to meet the men and women of the gaming industry in Asia and get to know their stories and dig a bit deeper. So we usually go for up to an hour if we've got an hour in us. So let's kick it off. So I guess I should say that Ben, you're in Sydney, I'm in Macau. Joe, you're in the Philippines. You're in Manila, right?
I'm in Manila, yes.
Yeah. Okay, very good. Well, look, why don't we just start off by obviously you've got Jade Entertainment over there, but let's go right back to the beginning. How did you get involved in the gaming industry, and right back at the beginning, and tell us your background and how you ended up where you are now?
I actually started in the IT industry and worked for a company called Digital Equipment Corporation, and this is back in the days when computers had valves in them, and then I specialized in real-time systems and worked for them for a number of years. And then during the early 80s, totalizators in Australia and globally were electromechanical. And an Australian company, Automatic Totalizators, were moving from electromechanical to computerized, and they had asked me to join them. I went to high school in Canterbury, just up the road from the racetrack. Loved the guys I went to school with, you know, their dads, trainers, jockeys, strappers. There used to be horses in the area and stables in people's backyards. So I thought, this would be interesting. Tote Systems, and we actually developed, at the time, was one of the first fully computerized tote systems. So we went from the old tote, which had a lever, and it'd spit out a $5 ticket. So if you wanted to bet $100, you'd turn the lever 20 times and the tickets would pop out.
Yeah.
To mark sense cards. And we started in Australia. We installed at the on-course tracks in Sydney, up in Brisbane, Victoria. Initially in Victoria, the tote was on the back of trucks, and depending where the race meeting was at, we'd go out send the truck out, connect to the tote line, and that was your racing for the day. Eventually we moved that tote to Moonee Valley, and we're able to, with telecoms and lease lines, then run multiple meetings, and eventually, run concurrent meetings, multiple concurrent meetings. And as we had computerized, then we started looking at exotic pools, your parlay, all-up type betting, your jackpot bets, which at the time really changed the industry, from betting on win, place and forecast, to having all these exotic bets. We then took that tote, and I was project manager. We took it up to Macau in 1982 and installed the Macau Canodrome. people say to me, I've been in Macau for 5 years. When I first went there, it was quite different. The water was at the back of the old Mandarin, which is Grand Lapa now. The boats used to come up there, and to get from across from Macau to Taipa, they had punts going across, and then from the back of Taipa across to Kalawan, it was just one lane to get over, and it was water both sides. And I actually remember taking at the time, the CEO of IGT in the late 90s, up where the water tower was, overlooking what was eventually to be Venetian. And I said, they're going to build casinos here, and it's going to be really big. And he looked at me and said, but you're just showing me water. There's nothing here. And, the industry, from those days to now has really grown. We look at Naga in Cambodia. It used to be a barge, which was leaning on one side on the Mekong River. Now they're building their third tower. Genting was one room. So we went from here in Asia from 3 casinos, Pagcor, Lisboa, and Genting, to what we have today, IRs, but pretty much in most Asian countries now.
So let's go back a bit. So I can't help myself asking you. Did you establish the totalizer in Australia? Was there already a tote before your?
There was a tote. Automatic totalizators was established in 1930. The tote was invented in Australia.
Oh, really?
It was mechanical.
Yeah.
And the inventor was George Julius, and I think it was 1913. He invented
it manually, right? Originally,
it was all pulleys and levers, and you can actually see the original tote in Eagle Farm Racetrack in the tote house there. Okay. And as bets would go on, the pulleys would move the odds. So the bets had come on, and they'd go in mechanically, and the lever would go up or down, and it would manipulate the odds
based upon how much had been bet on each horse, and it would work
on
out
each horse.
Payout is, and it was all mechanical. That's amazing.
All completely mechanical, and it wasn't until really the TAB started in the 70s, where they started to network. Here in the Philippines, we started, I set up the Manila Jockey Club tote, came here in 88 to install.
Joe, what was your first trip to Asia? What was the very first time you came from Australia to Asia?
First trip would have been Macau, the Canadrome. And the city was very different. When we arrived at Lisboa, Dr. Ho provided us with some chips and said, here's some chips. If you want to play, you play, but don't go outside. And we were transported from Lisboa to the Canadrome to do the install. And that tote is still there operating.
Wow, that's amazing.
So, Joe, they talk about the Wild West days of Macau. So is that what you saw a little bit of when you were there in the early days?
Well, we didn't see it because we were kept inside the hotel. We only heard about it. So, but you can. We went to Zhuhai, and we went across, and it was coming from Sydney at the time, Sydney had only just moved from, its White Australia policy into being a more integrated international community. And, going over there, it was very, very different. A lot of the Chinese at the time, they still had the long ponytails, and I remember that vividly, thinking, wow, the people here are quite different. But then from there, we went on to Thailand, installed the Tote at Bangkok Sports Club, Malaysia, set up the TAB and the racetrack, which was where the Petronas Towers are now. They used to be the racetrack. They moved the racetrack and built the Twin Towers on that site.
So when did you first move? So you were doing these trips over to Asia from Australia
back and
forth. And then
yeah.
what next? That was all your first job, basically, with that company installing all those totes? And then what was your next step?
Then before Philippines, it would have been South Africa, set up the Cape TAB. That would have been 86. And, that's during the time of sanctions and a little bit of unrest.
Right.
And the reason we'd done it at that time, they had the equine flu in South Africa, and a lot of their horses passed away. And also a lot of jockeys. There was a airline crash in South Africa, and they lost a lot of their jockeys. So racing was suspended. So they got us in there to establish the TAB and the racetracks in Cape Town. Then 88 was the first time I arrived in, 87, and we went live in 88 here in the Philippines.
And barely left again, Joe. I think I heard that you went home for a few weeks or a few days even, and came straight back.
Yeah, I was here for a while. We went live. While I was here, I met my wife, and basically went home, resigned, and come back. And we've been together 32 years.
That's very good. That's better than most.
Yeah.
Geez, you look young, Joe. I mean, you're talking about 86, 87. 87 was my first year of uni.
Yeah, well,
long time, mate.
63 now, so they called me a senior here. I'm not allowed out of the house because I'm a senior.
Yeah, way. And so then when you resigned, did you have a job to go back to, or did you just resign, go back to the Philippines and just see how it goes?
I said, I'll go back and see what happens.
And well, what did happen?
Then the Martel family, they owned a property next to Harrison Plaza, and he called me up. He said, I want to build a high-lie fronton. Can you run the project? Yeah. So I said, sure, no problem. I can do that for you. So I went to the library
to figure out what it was.
Yeah, I didn't know what high-lie was.
We should tell our viewers what it is. I bet you a lot of them don't know what it is. Maybe you can explain what it is.
High-lie is the world's fastest ball sport. It's played with a wicker basket called a cesta. The court is 54 meters long. And you have a tote system running on it. So you win place, forecast, doubles, trifectas. It first started in Spain. It translates in Basque to Merry Festival. And they used to play it against church walls. And they say that it was St. Francis and St. Ignatius used to play each other, and the Jesuit priests, and that's how it started. And there's three forms, one with a baton, one with the cesta, and one by hand. But the one that's played internationally is the one with the cesta. If you ever seen Miami Vice, they have it in the start of that. There's a resurgence in Miami.
It's popular in Florida, right? It's always been popular in Florida for some reason.
Yeah, there was in Macau, the High Lai used to be near the ferry terminal.
So is that why High Lai, the hotel, is called that? Is that where it was?
Yeah, they used to play there.
Okay.
So here in Asia, it used to be played in Indonesia, in Jakarta, Manila, and Macau. And you had 17 countries in the world playing High Lai. It's a real exciting sport. It was very big here. Shortly after we went live, I had to add additional selling terminals in the car park because we couldn't get all the patrons inside the fronton to watch the game. Now I'm trying to bring it back via Miami, via a stream, via our sports book. We're just working on that at the moment.
I guess we should explain a fronton is kind of like the court that it's played on.
The court, yeah, the court is, the building itself is the fronton.
All right, okay.
The court is the cancha.
Oh, okay. You're the expert.
Yeah, I got a really good book at the library, so I know all this.
The walls, there's one wall missing, isn't there?
Yeah, there's one wall missing where the spectators watch it.
Right.
And you've got to catch the ball and fling it back to the front wall, which is solid granite. And it's all one motion. And it's basically like squash. If you missed, you're out. Next player runs on. Generally, you have 10 players. So there's 10 in the field. And it's win place, trifecta, depending what, you get a point for every win. The unusual thing about High Lai is you can have a 1-1-1 trifecta. Because if number one or number two go all the way through, you end up with a triple one trifecta. Now,
so you started High Lai in the Philippines, or you started the Tote for High Lai in the Philippines, right?
I worked at the High Lai. I was director of gaming there. Mm-hmm. The property was owned, Tony Martell ended up selling it to Henry C., who SM, Henry C. Jr., so, and two other Filipinos, and we ran it very successfully for a couple of years. And then the government liked it better than us, and they took over, and it closed down in 6 months.
Well, we won't delve into that story. So,
yeah, don't know why.
What did you do next?
I actually went to Reno, and I took Club Keno to the US and worked with Cy Red,
Really?
The founder of IGT, on one of his private companies to get it into the US, and we ran the tests. And then the project stopped, and I decided to go back to Australia. My parents were getting on in age, and I said, "Oh, well, let's go back to Australia." I went back to Australia. It was 1999, and year 2000 was coming. And I got contacted by Compaq. And they go, "Look, there's this thing called Y2K. You're familiar with all these antique systems. can we pay you a lot of money to sit around all day? Just in case the world blows up. I said, yeah. So,
You're not going to say no to that, are you?
so I'd done that till they worked out the world didn't blow up. And then IGT contacted me and said, would you be interested in going back to Asia? And that was basically the start of the changes in Macau. They had actually asked me if I would move to Macau, and because my children were growing up, I wanted a good school for them, and said no, but I'll move to the Philippines. And basically ran it out of Philippines until 2008. And went to work directly with Lawrence, one of Lawrence Ho's companies. And then the great financial crisis come, and things weren't going so well. So I decided to start my own company. I thought all businesses around the world are going under, so good time to start a new company. So I started Jade.
A bit counterintuitive, but it seems to have worked out because you're still here and Jade's still here.
Yeah, still here, and I look at what we're going through at the moment and think, as long as we keep going, we'll still be here in 3 years' time, and we'll be here for the upswing.
Well, I mean, that's the thing, isn't it?
Sorry, Ben, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, I think that's the thing for a lot of companies is I think we all in the gaming industry see there's always better times and worse times ahead, but right now it's a bit of survival of it. I mean, how are you going with Jade? Is it, I guess things are tough for everybody at the moment.
Because we've diversified a bit, and, we have the office here in Manila, which is basically nothing happening because of the lockdown. We've only just started reopening. But we have the Malaysian office where we support Genting, and we have our techs on the ground, and we have our Ho Chi Minh office where we do sales and support there. We have sports betting where we're moving into more online. We're looking at some online products. We've worked with some sort of COVID products, heat measuring products, distancing products. We're working on some visual AI. I just got the camera delivered to look at casino floors, clusters, safe areas, cleaning, the entrance system where you basically it's something like this, but a bit larger for your entrance, where it turns green and you walk in. It does. This thing's got an AI chip in it, so we can do a lot with one of these. The other camera I have also has AI chip in it. We're trying to do. We see the future of gaming, AI having a lot more people needing a lot more AI in the future. Even once we get over this hurdle, the digital world is with us, and being here in Manila and seeing what the online guys do, the technology they utilize compared to what we do in the land-based side, they're way ahead, and we need to start bringing some of that technology into the land-based environment.
It's just going to move, like this before we go into COVID and technology and online, that sort of stuff, which is obviously the big thing to talk about. Let's just finish off that little story for those that don't know. Just give us a couple of minutes on Jade. Like, what does Jade Entertainment do? How, when it was first born, what sort of products were you involved in, and what services do you offer? And then maybe up to
Sure.
and then let's talk about COVID.
Yeah, we represent a number of companies. We represent Novomatic, Sega Sammy, Synergy Blue with their new sort of school-based entertaining games, Game Code, which is a new company out of Poland. We do the Walker Digital product. We support the Walker Digital product up in Malaysia, so it's our techs on the floor 24/7. We have the product installed here. The NRT terminals, kiosks, which you can see in Macau. We have those here in the Philippines. We install, we sell, we service those products. Then we do quite a few products, peripheral side. We support JCM and do their service here, Vietnam, Malaysia. The ticket paper from graphic controls, we handle that. We also locks. So we sell and install the locks. So if you look at Okada, I think we installed 35,000 locks there, another 27,000 at City of Dreams. We handle cage equipment, we service cage equipment. So basically we could build a casino or fit out a casino for you if you needed one fitting out. Systems, and now we've moved into AI products and some of these COVID specialty products.
So I guess it'd be fair to describe Jade Entertainment as an agent for various manufacturers around the world doing a variety of sales, distribution, service and support for the Asian regions. That
Correct.
basically summarizes it. Yeah.
Okay. And we also, depending on the property, we do revenue share, where we install the machines ourselves and take a piece of the action. And now we also have Jade Sportsbet here in the Philippines, where we were live at Okada. And now under that sports betting brand, we're looking at games that Filipinos like, live cockfighting, virtual cockfighting, highlight, and we're setting up what we call privilege betting to allow VIP customers to bet from home.
Did I just hear you say virtual cockfighting? Virtual
cockfighting. It's good.
Some people would argue that's better than the real thing.
Yes.
Yeah. So on that, I mean, I remember Ben wrote a story about the sports betting in Okada. Tell us a little bit that started, but it's not running at the moment, obviously. Tell us a little bit about the sports betting that you do.
Yeah, we went into Okada at the start of the year. We use a platform from RPM Gaming in the UK. We have the traders in-house. Initially, it was, when we first installed it, just retail counter. Now, the next step is to go tablets across different parts of the floor, VIP rooms. Part 3 of that is what is called privilege betting. So you register, you make a deposit, and basically it allows you to bet from home. And now we're looking at new games and some exotic betting. Some of the stuff I done during my Tote days, jackpot betting, all-up betting in Victoria. getting that into the Philippine market. The tote here, when we introduced the tote at Manila Jockey Club, we introduced Pick 6 as a new pool, Winner Take All as a new pool. In Bangkok, when we went live there, they would only allow win and forecast. So I introduced 2-horse forecast, 4-horse forecast, 6-horse forecast.
Wow.
It was all forecast.
I guess we should talk about COVID, shouldn't we? Let's what's going on in the Philippines. What's the real story over there?
COVID, we're at around 3,000 new cases per day.
Wow, that's a lot.
Here in Manila, we have general quarantine and 8 p.m. to 5 a.m. curfew. Where it's going, we're not really sure. It's just in the environment we have here, it's very hard to control.
What's your best guess? I mean, you're there on the ground. What's your best guess? Do you have anything you could base on when things might open up to a certain extent? Or
I think we will go into a modified general quarantine, is what they have outside of Manila, probably towards the end of this month. But there will be heavy restrictions until there's a vaccine. We really need a vaccine to get it under control here. And that could be end of this year, it could be middle of next year. Travel will be limited in and out. At the moment, I think only Philippine citizens and permanent residents are allowed to come to Philippines. Domestic tourism is still closed. So we're hoping, some of that will open up. Unemployment is at 45% at the moment.
45%?
Yeah, so there's a lot of pain out there. We're at 3,000 cases, but the economy, do you suffer from COVID or do you suffer from hunger at the moment? So the government, they're criticized, but it's not an easy job for really any government to control something you really can't see. The best thing we can do is stay home and watch Netflix.
Exactly right. Well, it's interesting, Joe, that we've just had the news that the casinos in Manila have been given permission to open at 30% capacity.
Yeah.
The IRs have. I mean, what does that affect you? Does that get you going a little bit? And what do you think that means for them, for those operators?
For the operators, I think the 30% will be VIP players. So opening 30%, you're going to be a little choosy on who that 30% is. So it'll be more the high end. And I think the government will see how that works for a while and seeing if they can take it to 50%. Social distancing, masks, shields. My guys are in there at the moment doing preventive maintenance. They have to wear a suit, gloves, mask, shield. When you're working on bill validators, you've got this thing and gloves on. But it's what we have to do for now. If the properties can break even for the next year, probably going to be 3 years from now before we get back to 2019 levels. But my way of combating it is actually to try grow. So we're looking at licensing in other jurisdictions. We're looking at more online products. So rather than contracting, we're looking at growing the business. For land-based, it would, if permitted, some online offerings for them would be the way to go.
Well, that's the obvious. I mean, we've been holding all these, digital webinars and our game sessions that we've been doing and all. I mean, and the running gag at IAG is, all right, how many minutes till someone mentions online gaming each time? Because it's just really coming up over and over and over again. And the online world's initially suffered a little bit of a dip until it got itself together, but now it's organised itself and they've picked up a lot. I mean, what do you think? I'm going to ask you the same question we ask everybody. Land-based operators, do they need to be looking to online? Do regulators? I mean, they're vehemently against it here in Macau, as you well know.
Yeah.
So, how do you see this playing out?
Well, we have, businesses have disaster recovery plans for fires, for floods. Why not for a pandemic? And why not online? You're a member of a casino. If that casino has its own RGS, and as a member, you're playing with your casino wallet, whether you play on the casino floor or play from home, extend the experience to when they leave the property, then you have some business continuity. It would be much better to have some sort of online offering rather than letting 1,000 people go or 2,000 people go. You can keep the business running. And there are online products, casinos do proxy betting, and they do it internationally. Why not do proxy intranet betting? Which means, some of the areas, the bars which are closed, lounges which are closed, give people tablets and have proxy betting within the casino. You have a lot of, they talk about distancing, but, open up some of the closed areas, give people tablets, and you can run games off RGS. You can actually, you look at live dealer studios. Why not have live dealer studio within property and then allow them to play online once they leave the property? I'm sure regulators could come up with, and properties can come up with a set of regulations. You're protecting the online player. At the moment, there's so many illegal sites out there. The only way to stamp out illegal gambling is to legalize it. Otherwise, you're just going to keep having it. And, at the moment, casinos, when they reopen, they're going to be competing with illegal sites that have grown over the past 6 months. So,
don't pay any tax.
And don't pay tax. And in some cases, don't play winners either.
Indeed. So it sounds like you're yet another proponent saying that we've got to look at land-based casinos. We've got to look to integrate online in some way and extend their land-based offering. I mean, maybe like the New Jersey model or something like that.
Well, we are one industry.
Yeah.
We are the gaming entertainment industry, and start to think of it that way. The land-based guys, they go through probate. They go through regulations, their products go through GLI. bring in the online products into that environment, and you're regulating, you're protecting the customer, you're paying your taxes, and you're utilizing technology. And then you have a business continuity plan.
Mm-hmm. Joe, you're in one of the... Sorry, Joe, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand if you're a land-based operator or a regulator, why you would be against using tools or the, we're using Zoom at the moment, and, it's a tool which, if wasn't here, we'd be on analog phones trying to call each other saying, look, we're going to do this interview. That's what we need to get out of those dark ages and bring it to 2021.
It's like for many years, companies have been scared of letting people work from home because who knows what will happen. And now it's happening, and people are starting to realize, this isn't such a bad thing. There's something in this moving forward. I mean, maybe regulators need to be taking that view when it comes to not being so terrified of online gaming. Ironically, you're in one of the few jurisdictions that has looked at regulating online gaming with the Pogo system over there. I'm just wondering, Joe, what's your view of Pogo so far? What Pagcor's done there with the online gaming sphere and the progress of that. I mean, do you think
it's a very good first step, having the Pogos? Now they're looking at setting them up in hubs. As the government regulates, the government, Pagcor, they're learning themselves. It has certainly brought in a lot of revenue. Well, in previous years, has brought in a lot of revenue for the government. It also protects the player. Now, the contention is a lot of the bets come in from China, so we're going to have friction from the Chinese side over, where does the bet take place? But the growth of Pogo, run with good regulation, they'll continue to grow, and I think we're going to see other countries in our area starting to regulate, their own Pogos. There's talk in Malaysia. There's talk in other jurisdictions. China scared Cambodia, and they closed it, but it just means the legal ones closed and the illegal ones just keep operating. But we will see other countries starting to regulate. I'd like to see Australia regulate online. Because I think
one of the toughest, hasn't it? It's been one of the toughest countries on online.
Yes. Yeah, they've been very tough on online. But it hasn't stopped online operators. Now, it'd be great for clubs and that are struggling to be able to have some sort of online offering. If you can't have your property full of customers, allow some of your members to bet outside.
Well, we had something quite ironic happen on Sunday last week. We had the record for the greatest amount of turnover in one day of the Hong Kong Jockey Club. It's
yes.
The record for the fewest number of people at the racetrack was the same day.
Yes.
So, and all the stores and all the retail shop fronts were closed as well. I think they were all closed, or a good number of them were closed.
Yeah.
So see, that was basically all online turnover, wasn't it?
Yeah, all online.
And the sky didn't fall in?
No.
No.
The horses are still running.
Yeah.
It's quite funny. I wrote a story this morning about the World Series of Poker obviously couldn't take place this year in Las Vegas.
Another example.
They had an online version. They set the record for the biggest online tournament ever, biggest prize pool ever, biggest individual winner ever. And I'm pretty sure that the World Series of Poker online will now become an annual thing. Even when the land-based comes back, I have no doubt they'll do both now. Because they've seen what can happen in the online space, and they go, that works pretty well.
So many people who maybe couldn't get to Vegas for one reason or another, the expense or maybe even visa issues or whatever. And what Ben brings up raises an interesting point, Joe. I'm interested in your view on this. Like how many things that get discovered or emerge during this process we're going through now with COVID-19 might outlast COVID-19 and change behaviours and the way we do things permanently? What do you think?
Yeah, well, everything we're working on is not only for the next 12 months, but we're looking at the industry in 5 years' time to say, well, what are casinos going to look like in 5 years? Do we really need all those boxes, or can we run just a RGS and have all the games aggregated in that, and we're moving towards e-wallets and cashless casinos anyway. Do we just need screens? Do we need screens and nice signage? And that's where our thinking is. I think within 5 years, we won't need all that hardware. And we can achieve that by working with some of these. There's some very, very good online operators, which are publicly listed companies. They work internationally, and they know their games. They've got AI running in the background, analyzing the games and the play, and they do it in real time. Land-based casinos, we get a report at the end of the month and say, what happened last month? These guys are doing it in real time.
A lot to learn from them. Maybe we've only got about 10 minutes left. Let's move on to the Philippines. You've been there a very long time, and tell us a little bit about living in the Philippines as opposed to living in other places, what you love and hate about the Philippines. I mean, you've been there a great deal of time.
Well, the country itself, we're probably, the people are great. We've got great natural resource. There's 7,000 islands, 7,104 islands. I have a very good life here. We live in Makati, and like a few of us here, we have farms outside the city. The thing about living here, it is a challenge with the bureaucracy. We try not to get into the politics. We let everyone else sort that out. But some of the things we don't like is lack of infrastructure, IT infrastructure, internet. Once you're out of the city, it's very difficult to get good internet. Probably could not have the same lifestyle I have here in most Western countries. My son and daughter, they went to high school here. They went to university in New York, and they just wanted to come home, back to the Philippines when they finished. They also love it here. They've got friends here, and they have a choice. you know, do you want to go live in Australia, US? They like the culture here. Yeah, we spend time here. We have a farm between Clark and Subic, where I try to grow stuff. I finally got some fig trees growing. I got some grapes, some vines. We put those in. We got ducks and geese and turkey and pigs. And so the good thing is I don't actually have to dig the dirt myself, because
Are we going to see any Chateau Pisano in the future? Is there any vino on the way?
well, we could have some really good vinegar.
Very good.
Yeah, we got some vines in, and we.
A lot of us in the industry, we travel to the Philippines, but you live in the Philippines, right?
Yes.
It's different. Obviously, that's a different experience, because we get to go in and enjoy what we like about the Philippines, but then we can get out. Whereas you're there, you know, and your life is set up there. I mean, a little bit about is it still the biggest growth market? What's going on in Clark? What's going on down in Cebu? What do you, from the industry point of view, and even in Manila with Entertainment City and Sun City and Resorts World West Side and all of that, how do you see the industry in the next decade in the Philippines growing?
Over the next 10 years, and one of the reasons I wanted to come back here originally was I saw it as the biggest electronic gaming market in Asia. I did not see Macau as a big electronic gaming market. And that was my initial thought of coming back here. You know, we have more integrated resorts going into Manila. We have the Emerald Resort going up in Mactan. We have the Universal Robinsons IR going up in Cebu City. Clark will eventually have 12 casinos. Just on Clark, I was one of the first foreigners into Clark after the Mount Pinatubo eruption.
Wow.
And that was with Tourism Secretary Tony Gonzalez. The two of us drove up, and it was basically like looking over a snowfield. Everything was just covered in ash after the volcano erupted. And we went to the top of what was then Clarkton House, which was then later the Holiday Inn, to the roof, and everything was white. And Tony asked me, he said, "What are we going to do here?" I said, "Let's get casinos in here and that'll clean it up." And I think we've got about 7 now, and there's still, over the next few years, there'll be another 5 go in. And then what they call New Clark, which is where Weedus has expanded and got another property there. I think we'll see casinos there. Subic has lagged behind, mainly because they don't have an international airport at Subic. But the new Clark Airport's looking good. It'll be up and running soon, provided they allow flights. So there's an international airport there. We may see, with some of the bingo halls, we may see the introduction of other games, server-based games. We're looking at putting sports betting into a lot of bingo outlets. Pre-COVID, we were looking at 50 outlets together with bingo. So you can go to your local outlet and have a bet on tonight's cockfight.
So you mentioned before that before we got on air, so to speak, that last year you travelled 40 times, and
Yeah, 40 international flights last year.
Yeah. So obviously not so many this year with the lockdown and so forth. I mean, do you think that once it opens up again, you'll travel as much, or do you think?
Maybe not. I've got to like Zoom, and your main shows, ICE, G2E Vegas, probably the Sydney show, those shows there. But for the other trips, a lot of the meetings we have, and a lot of flights, you fly there for a meeting. Zoom seems to be working even better. I've actually been more productive and more busy in the past 6 months than I was all of last year. We've actually signed
travel time, right? Less travel time.
Yeah, there's less travel time. Once you're engaged with the person, there's no distraction. You're on video and you're talking about business, and you can give presentations, you can share screen. There's really not a need for as many trips. Not for the near future, no. We are expanding into other jurisdictions, and we've done a lot of that online. We haven't had to go there, whereas previous years we'd actually fly there and do it. So I don't mind not flying every week.
Well, it's interesting, I mean, this, I guess everyone's got an excuse. I mean, personally, myself, I travel to Japan once a month and I travel to Philippines once a month in the normal course of things. But now everybody, they forgive you because they understand that you can't. So it'll be interesting to see after your poor old Ben's been stuck in Sydney now for how long, Ben? It's straight after ICE you rushed home. You were meant to go to Macau, weren't you?
I was, but that's when they started cancelling flights. So I thought I'd better get back home to Sydney. But, to be honest, Sydney's not the worst place to be right at the moment. I mean, the virus situation here is pretty good. Life's operating pretty normally, and it's just coming into spring and summer now. So I'm okay, Andrew. I'm not rushing over at the moment to Macau.
We miss you, Ben. Come back.
Yeah, of course.
We miss you. Well, Joe's been... sorry, go on.
Yeah, I think Australia, you're basically not allowed to leave for now. And that'll probably go till the end of the year.
Yeah, I think even as bubbles open up, I'm not sure Australia's going to take part in many for a while, maybe New Zealand. But, I might have to wait till this vaccine before I really get back to Asia. That's a case for a lot of people in our industry at the moment, I think, is just the waiting game.
Yeah, now we wait and we do what we can. The main thing now is just to keep the business going, make sure our employees are taken care of. Even we break even over the next year, that's a good thing. At least we're here when it all starts to come back.
Yeah, I mean, it's very important for smaller businesses like like ours, for example.
Yeah.
So for those big integrated resorts, they're burning money hand over fist. But then again, they have access to financial markets that we don't, right? So they're all borrowing like mad, with the exception of Galaxy, which has already got a massive stash of cash on their balance sheet.
They're okay.
They're okay. So I guess it's a matter for this. I mean, the businesses that are really getting squeezed now are the SMEs that can't break even, right? So if we can break even or maybe lose a manageable amount, I think it's okay. But I feel sorry for those businesses that aren't able to do that, and then who suffers first of all, the employees, right?
Yeah, and we're seeing that here in the Philippines. A lot of restaurants are already closed up. And they won't reopen. I think we'll see half the restaurants and some very good restaurants, they just can't afford the rent, the ones in prime position, and they're going to have to lock up. A lot have already locked up. The businesses that are doing well are the home delivery, home delivery, and the online guys. I mean, they're doing great at the moment.
Well, anything internet based. I mean, it's just accelerated the whole process. I mean, I think this time that we're in now will be looked in centuries to come. Will be these few decades that we're in now will be looked in as the transition period from an online world.
I think we've just accelerated, the digital world. My only concern is here in the Philippines is we're going to end up with a sort of a digital divide where, the kids that can do distance learning via the internet and have computers, they're going to learn. The ones that can't, they're going to fall behind. So we're entering that period now, probably not so much in Australia, but, countries like Philippines where we're going to have a big digital divide in the population.
Well, there's an argument, isn't there, that maybe we're getting to the point now, and I think there's one Scandinavian country, don't quote me on it, but I think it might be Finland, one of those Scandinavian countries where internet's basically a right. It's an essential service, like water. Yes. And maybe at some point in the future, governments just take that over and go, right, everybody's got the right to that, because without that, you really can't survive anymore. And I know we certainly couldn't survive in our business. No. I'm sure we couldn't without decent internet. So let's see how all that plays out.
When I started in the industry, I used to have to use telex so I'd go to site and go, I need this part. I'd send a telex, and the telex would go off to Australia, and you had to be sort of every word counted then. So
need part now, stop.
need part number. And then they come back and go 2 weeks. All right, I got 2 weeks at the beach until the part comes.
Wow, everything changed. Well, didn't they say that there's more computing power in our mobile phone than there was on the rocket that went to the moon? I think I think that's a fact. So it's all changed.
We used to run racetracks with half a meg of memory.
Wow,
incredible.
I bet the graphics wasn't very good. No graphics.
Yeah. I mean, the most important part was the walkie-talkie to the starter, just to get all the bets on.
Right. Not yet. We're still pulling.
Yeah, we're still taking bets.
Very good. Well, Joe, I'm sure we could keep on talking forever. I think we've run over an hour, so it's fantastic to speak to you. Thank you so much for doing this.
Real pleasure. Enjoyed, Ben. Great to see you.
Yep, no doubt we'll have a beer, be it Sydney or Manila at some stage.
Yeah, well, next time I'll put one in each room and we'll go for a pub crawl.
Lovely. Sounds good.
It'll be good. I mean, that's the only thing about all this Zoom stuff, isn't it? I mean, when you all finally do get together. I mean, we held our Mad 5 a few weeks ago. We've got our Mad 6 coming up, and the Mad 5 was insanely popular. Everyone was there because everyone's like, oh, fantastic. Something to go to,
Yes, I saw the email for that last night. Unfortunately, we're here.
Oh, well. When we finally get the Philippines, or you can get on a plane, come over here. So Thanks again, Joe. And,
thanks, guys.
Yep. And
enjoy your evening.
You too. All right.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Okay, so signing off, everybody, and thanking Ben and thanking Joe. And we'll see you next time for the 4th IAG podcast, whenever that might happen to be. Bye for now. Bye.